Hello everyone, welcome to DMVII Live for September 9th, 2017. The highlight for this video is available in the DMVII Live Highlights playlist. Keep in mind, stocks and strategies discussed here are for information only. Do not treat any information provided here as investment advice or recommendation. It is up to the individual investor to perform due diligence prior to investing in any company. And here are the symbols covered this week. Feel free to pause the video and look up the symbols to learn more about the underlying businesses.
Dan, you want to kick it off? I'm going to
let me see. As you know, I usually don't do much trading. Yesterday put in a limit order for Orbitech. Did not execute.
Yeah,
but that's okay. It's getting a little rich, I think. But
41 or something?
more BK, right?
Yeah.
Did you see that they had a lawsuit?
Yeah.
There's quite a number of little, and they didn't pay taxes in Israel or something.
That was a while ago though.
That's not our thing.
Yeah,
That's not this year. They had it.
Yeah, it was actually, it wasn't that long. I would say within a month or
a few
two.
months ago.
Maybe 2 months. Something
Yeah.
like that. And that was talked about here. And that could come back. That issue, they could, there could be a finding.
It's that longest candlestick you see over there. That was a lawsuit.
Yeah.
What do you mean candlestick?
That one with his pointing at.
Each day is a bar. That's a candlestick. That's called a candlestick.
Oh, okay.
I happen to know this one.
Yeah.
They had that tax beef there that came up, and
That's the one we're talking about. They didn't pay taxes, or something? It was the
they were under
inquiry.
investigation.
The
right, there was an
investigation.
investigation that they were not paying
Yeah.
all their taxes. They were
Yeah.
supposed
So
to.
we talked about that, and there are, and so my thought there, and that was part of my thinking, is that I don't have been too high on it, and I wasn't off. I missed it by probably 15 cents or something like that. But so that could come back. So that's when not the investigation word, I forget the legal term for it, was lodged, and the complaint, I guess you can call it. And then there's going to be a time of investigation. Then I can come back again on them and maybe create another, high volume drop or not, But even if it does, I think it'll pass. I think it's, I know obviously Josh talks it up, but I've read some analyst reports and stuff like that, and I can't find anything bad about the company. I really can't. So anyway, besides that, I got done and I do a lot of mostly indexing.
So wait, for those who are not familiar with the candlestick, right? You have the reds and greens. The reds meaning you have a down day where the closing price was lower than the opening price, so it was down there. That's a red.
Okay, I can write that too.
One where the closing price was above the opening price.
Okay.
So, I did have something I was looking at this morning
I
too,
see.
and
It'll still be
Waze,
green
one
when
of
it
your
goes
suggestions is
Right.
the competitor to Intel is what, AMC?
Because
AMD.
it opened
AMD, I think,
lower,
or AMC.
right,
Yeah, it's a
and-
movie place. Yeah. So, I think that might be attractive, or closer
Sometimes
to
it'll
10.
gap down,
So I'm just kind of watching that too.
10.
Yeah, for that company right now,
9.
they were riding on a
AMD,
lot of the hype.
Yeah.
At least
AMD.
before they were talking about the releasing GPU,
Mhm.
the Vega, and then they were also talking about the server processor and how they may take market share from Intel.
Mhm.
And so a lot of that, it's at that time, at least when I was looking at it, was based on hype, and momentum was building on it. And since then, I think it's been floundering around like
Yeah.
11 and 13 price range.
Right.
So I don't know. Do you still trade volatility there, Tom?
I don't trade volatility, I trade theta.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, with the
Yeah, they kind of relate to each other because the bigger the volatility, the more theta you can collect, right?
Not always,
No?
no, they're completely independent. The reason being, something like Apple could have a very high volatility this weekend, but the premium or the theta of that wasn't very high. because there's high liquidity and people wouldn't, the spread is smaller.
So Tom, so the premiums are high because of the expectation about the,
Yes.
so the theta component means that that premium will stay up there, will not decay as much, which is the theta, right?
Well,
over day, right?
Theta could decay in one day if there is a lawsuit like that.
Right. But with Apple, you're not expecting.
Yeah.
You expect that premium to be up high.
Well, when it comes around, I'll tell you what I did with Apple. It
Okay.
might be interesting.
Okay, is that it then for you, Dan?
So, yeah.
Kate, you're next.
Well, this week I have not done a whole lot of trading, so I don't really have any updates.
I have a question. I was thinking about your, that cars.
See, Carvana,
Corvana has a,
it is.
I wonder if they got an uptick because of the hurricane as well. That's what made
Interesting,
me,
yeah,
What's the symbol?
Yeah, what is the symbol on it?
CVNA.
I'm sorry?
Charlie, Victor, Nancy, Adam. Well, it's at, let's see, for the past week, it's been up over the last week. I don't know if that's related to the hurricane or not.
Yeah, it's will bounce around here and
It's
oh,
like 7% in a week.
well, yeah, well, auto dealers are, the Ford's up, a bit, and, so Auto Nation, we talked about in here, which I wouldn't buy, but, CarMax, so it's all, hurricane related.
So was it a few years ago when Hurricane Sandy hit the East Coast?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Were you guys involved in the hey laser? So were you guys involved in the market at the time of when Hurricane Sandy hit, and what was the reaction from the overall market? Like what industry were you looking at? At that time I wasn't investing, so I might suspect like Home Depot or Lowe's.
Yeah,
or
they were all
like
popped.
that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I looked at them because they were always.
I went back to look at Home Depot during Katrina, and I didn't see a big spike.
It did just like.
It did?
I don't know.
Oh, I didn't notice anything.
Okay, I don't. I owned it years and years ago. I wish I kept it, obviously, but anyway, yeah, I was too rich for me. I think, yeah, and it's there's really, it's only because I think these big cap stocks are often already priced in. The market really already has it off.
It's strange though, because Home Depot was flat for like years.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 years it seemed like it's moved
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, I think it's probably why I sold it. Right.
So what are some other stocks that you guys look at when, let's say, impending storm, hurricane, whatever that's coming?
So GM and Ford, did you just talk
Yeah,
about?
well, car companies, yeah. The thing is with, I read this article, I think it's Seeking Alpha, about, so, yeah, car companies are pop, but
What car
Ford,
companies?
Ford for one.
How
And
many
then,
cars were destroyed in this storm?
uh,
And what fraction of demand?
Right.
well, that, I don't know, I just,
So then, I mean, you know,
It's a
well,
perception.
but, yeah, but except that the stocks did pop on this expectation, so there might not be like a reality to it, other than people are really making money. We're not.
To
a
look
lot
at.
of people think like you, that's why.
The
Yes,
other,
yeah.
yeah, it's a perception.
Well, I don't know if they think like me. I would
I mean,
think.
yeah, it's,
But
but you gotta
anyway,
be ahead of the crowd.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're trying to
But-
think of what other
so
people
anyway, I
are
want to
thinking.
get the rest of this
That's what you're trying to
article.
do.
Is that there's a for Ford? Well, down in the Houston area, a lot of people drive pickup trucks, and Ford is a leader in the pickup truck.
Right,
Every-
F-150,
so,
yeah.
So that accounts for Ford. I didn't look at GM.
Okay, well, okay, was that it then?
The other one is insurance companies, of course, that you just talked about, like Travelers, TRV.
Yeah.
That got stuck by you've seen this in the reports that additionally, the day of the hurricane or a couple of days before the hurricane, insurance companies will go down, and then a couple months later they'll be much higher.
Right.
Not a much, significantly higher.
Right. Right.
Because they find that the damages are going to be paid by the government, not by the insurance company. Because they don't cover flood.
Right.
The flood insurance company.
And I think I don't know this industry well, but I think the insurance company are insured. They get underwriters themselves.
Right.
You know, like Lloyd's of London or something like that. So that they have to go through the claim process.
All right, so that was it for you, Kate?
I did just want to mention an update. I talked about VeriSign last week, and that
What's the single
one other comment I had to say is that is like the one tech stock that Warren Buffett is in, so that's
What's the
of
symbol
my
on
interest.
What is it?
VeriSign, cybersecurity.
Yeah, VRSN.
Especially now.
No, my cybersecurity stuff taken off.
That was me. I put it in. What's that? I put it on next.
Yeah. So, that's it?
That's all.
Next gentleman there in the corner.
I didn't really trade anything this week, but I've been catching a few things. One is Orbotech. Yeah, do you have any insight into? I saw on Orbotech, since you be talking about it so much, there's some legal issues.
Correct.
And I saw
We've discussed
like
it. Yep.
a company was seeking people who think they've been ripped off, like a tort or something. I mean, I want to know.
All right, we'll talk about it afterwards. Then we'll talk about it afterwards.
Yeah, I think we know the story. We can go
So-
talk about it offline. Yeah.
And then I also been watching CHCT.
CHCT?
Yeah,
So what you're thinking on that one? What is it and what are you thinking about?
it's a healthcare REIT. So I read a couple articles on Seeking Alpha by Brad Thomas. Somebody recommended Brad Thomas, and I just noticed his name was on it. But there's a couple competitors in healthcare, but they specialize in non-urban markets, and their biggest holdings are in Kansas, Florida, and Ohio. So then I compared a map on Tableau of health by county, and those Kansas and Ohio are one of the main states getting sicker. Not Florida for some reason. And I mean, I don't know if there's a direct correlation between hospital growth and the amount of sick people, because maybe they can't afford hospitals in the first place. So I tried to look up the individual hospitals that they lease to, and that led me kind of down a dead end, because you can Google their websites, but you don't know if they're going to be insolvent or anything. I mean, the website looks nice. So, but I looked at their holdings. I mean, their largest lease is 6% of their total assets. So I was thinking, even if a company or two goes like bankrupt or something, they wouldn't lose too much, and they're growing. They've been like steady growth over the years, and the dividend's pretty high. So I was thinking maybe it's something good to hold on to.
It's had a nice pop recently.
Yeah.
All right. So is that it then for you?
Yeah, oh, and anybody might be, a guy gave me the sheet with the best performing funds this year. And what's interesting is the Vanguard Small Cap Index. Year to date is up 41.8%.
What's the symbol of that?
Vanguard Small Cap Index.
Do you have a symbol on that one? Because I think Hector can bring those up.
It's VS Max. And also the
Yes.
Vanguard Small Cap VSIAX is up 44%.
VX, what was it?
There's VSIAX.
Oh, okay. Yes, sure. Interesting.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, see, of course, that's, I mean, just as on the chart, I mean, Vince can't bring these up, but this is a mutual fund.
Yeah.
And that
The
shows you
mutual fund.
because they only have a single price. Mutual funds only have a single price at the closing price of the day. And
Or
that's,
you can look at VB. Victor Bob.
VB, or that's their ETF, I guess.
Yeah, and then there's Vanguard Mid Cap Index VIMAX, which is also
It's a mutual fund. VIMA. I'm sorry, VIM.
VIMAX.
VIAAX.
VIMAX.
Max.
Again, a mutual fund.
VIMAX.
So maybe I can do something Vince can't, is show people. Because he's doing DC 2000, right?
He needs to download
Well,
the database.
mutual funds do have an advantage is that you just get the closing price. And, you're not going to be buying high or selling low for the day. You're going to get that single price for the day. The
No,
closing
that might be a
price.
disadvantage.
And, there certainly is something
like
to be
fees,
said for
right?
that. Especially somebody who doesn't have the stomach to try and
Right, okay.
play around. Because frankly, I think you're trading during the day. You're battling against the pros. You're internet bots and all that. And wow, that's a lot of crazy stuff out there. Because I think the odds are that you're not going to buy at the low and sell at the high for the day. I think you're going to be doing the reverse. But everybody's different. But the mutual funds is a single price at the closing price, and that's what you get. And they're a little more expensive because of the overheading process and all that. But I personally think it's an advantage to have a guaranteed, a single price, and you're not going to get the worst for the day or the best for the day, but you're going to get the closing price.
So one thing to also add about that is that traditional mutual funds carry higher management expenses, right? As an average, for example, mutual fund will carry 1.1% management fees. For ETF might be 0.2%.
So it's better just getting ETF with mid cap and small cap.
Right.
I wouldn't say that.
I mean, because of the
It's
fees, the debt owes.
I mean, there is an advantage of lower, especially if you didn't trade, then okay, yeah. Then I think Hector is right. That's it's a single shot. Maybe you may have bad daily price, but from then on out, you have the lower expenses that the ETF experiences as opposed to mutual funds. So you have that going for it. But it's mutual fund. I think they have some managers in there too. I don't really know all this.
Yeah, that's why they charge you for that management.
And they don't beat.
It just depends. Some of them are, some of them aren't. I mean, it's
They
tricky
underperform,
business,
like historically.
About 75% underperform. 75%.
They're managed funds though. You're talking about index funds. Yeah.
Well,
That's
what's it
different.
called? Active or passive? I think that's the terminology. So I don't know. Some of the mutual funds are active. More and more of them. A lot of Vanguards are passive mutual funds, or index. But so is that it then for you?
Yeah.
All right. You're next.
Well, okay. I have been having very nice successes in the biotech space. And I'm just going to tell you some of the ones that are kind of more dramatic. So I had big hits. I'll just go through that because I didn't come prepared about it.
Oh, well,
Kite was a very, very big success, a very, very large position. And it was bought out, so that's a 251% gain at $300,000 profit.
What?
Kite Pharma.
What was this?
It's a Kite Pharma. It's bought out.
KITE?
It's KITE, yeah.
Yeah, that was
So
Gilead bought them out. Or
And so,
bought them out.
it had to decide between NVS, Juno, and Kite. And I thought Juno was way behind. I could have shorted Juno.
Yeah, Gilead bought them.
Right, and see, of course, that's another thing too. The way this price is freezing like that is not fluctuating at all.
Because it's 180. I mean, that's it. It's they said they'll sell it and they'll buy it at 180 for cash.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just waiting for the cash to do that. And fortunately, I bought it a year ago.
Uh-huh.
So now everything is going to be long term.
Right.
So it didn't make any
nice.
sense for me to sell it at 178.9 or whatever. It was 180 again. And so and it just turned in September. So now I'm safe. So long term. ESPR is so this is a CAR-T which is, I had visited and listened to their presentations and I had Kite Pharma. They have, DCBL that created results. ESPR is still a buy, even though it has gone up quite a bit, because they have something called vampiric acid. Vampiric acid is
So what? Yes. Oh, ESPN.
Yeah, it lowers cholesterol. It's a simple pill compared to what Amgen and other people, Prolent and Regeneron and all that have. And that is, Amgen has Repatha, that are injections. And this is no side effects, kind of simple pill. And it has got a lot going for it. Yeah, so I
Seems
think,
to not want to go over there.
I mean, I have like I said,
What about negative?
I have 180% gain. So, I mean, negative is basically,
Now, so where do you see that going? Because it seems to be treading water, right, for a little bit.
Well, because now the results have to come out and, finally they have to apply and get an approval. So, they got hit mainly because the FDA told them that you're going to prove that lowering cholesterol by 50% or whatever it is, reduces heart attacks. But Amgen proved that. So they got a free ride in that, but they still have to do that trial in order for FDA to approve that trial. But bempedoic acid is going to be approved because the results are good. Celgene has been just my portfolio stock because it's really a fund. And that is very
Ooh,
good.
that went up a little bit. So.
So I'm looking at my largest gains in that. Exact Sciences,
So it's Celgene.
that's a short-term play basically. I think Exact Sciences eventually you have to sell.
What's the symbol?
EXAS. I mean, again, that is 133% gains. The problem with Exact Sciences, this is basically, they have a stool test. And so 3 years ago, I actually did the stool test instead of colonoscopy. But, who knows, the science may change and better tests may come along. So, people sort of say it's played out and what have you, but colonoscopy costs $3,000 or something like that. These tests cost $500. So I think their sales are going to continue to increase dramatically as they have been. And I think probably in 6 months it should be sold, maybe a year, but a year is, the other one is Portola. They have
What's the symbol?
these are my largest positions. PTLA. Now PTLA has already gone up 88% since I bought it, but I think the thing with PTLA was basically is that they have a drug that is extremely successful and it's going to keep growing, and they have another antidote for the other drug.
Yeah,
This
this
is-
is here a high volume.
That's when the drug was approved.
So
When you get an event where the drug is approved, remember, when a drug fails, basically, it's the other way around. So don't just look at,
So this is a
So if you want to play in
opportunity.
this sandbox, you got to be prepared.
yeah.
And it took me a while, to try and understand and visit and go to the conferences. To do this. The next largest position, I think, is ABBA, but that is not a biotech. That's because I told you guys that buying Yahoo was cheaper than buying Alibaba. And so it's still selling at a 33% discount. And if the Republicans, ever succeed in this new, tax kind of reform and lower taxes, AABA.
EABA.
AABA.
AABA.
Oh, so
By the way, I bought some.
That's the new
too.
version
Worked
of
out very nicely.
Alibaba.
Yeah, it's a former Yahoo.
The
Yeah.
alternate Baba.
So,
Same chart.
so I think people are still recommending it because the value is $93 and it's selling at $63. But the question is, the difference is tax. And if the Republicans succeed in lowering the tax, then this is good play.
This is another Chinese company?
No, it's
This is
an
not a
old
Chinese
Yahoo.
It's primarily owns, they're trying to sell off the Yahoo share and return the money to shareholders. This is a kind of just a holding company. It has Baba, and then it has some Yahoo Japan, which is making some money, and they can sell that off. So the sum of the parts is $93, and so
Yeah, I mean,
liquidation.
I guess the
They
issue
want
is
to do,
some
yeah,
deferred
they're
tax
trying to do a
liability.
tax-free liquidation, in which case they'll realize the full value of 93. If you have to pay taxes on it, it's closer to 60, the current selling price. So and the guys are seriously trying that.
What does Yahoo Japan do differently from Yahoo US?
It's separate. Yeah, no, it's separate. It's running by itself. It's a subsidiary. It's it doesn't Yahoo. These people don't own all of Yahoo Japan. So I mean, so you value some of the parts. I think Seeking Alpha will tell you, or whatever it is. Some of these things will tell you. And I think there was a recent.
I mean, that's another.
There was a recent kind of article I read that some of the parts is valued currently at $93. But remember that is before tax. And if they were to liquidate, there would be tax consequences, and so you might end up with $60. So you've got to worry about that. That's what I think. But the discount is good.
So you're saying
And they are trying to do it to sell off if Baba buys these shares or sort of gives them cash or what have you, it may be you don't have to pay taxes. So this management is trying to avoid taxes.
Also, you say if Trump passes tax reform, they can liquidate. with
Trump
tax
doesn't
liability.
pass anything. I mean, maybe the Republicans.
Republicans are with.
Yeah, Trump will only keep on paying.
I mean, everybody knows what's going on there. That's your Trump experience.
While you're on the tech, on that tech, but biotech area, what are you watching XON? Have you been
Kirk has been buying EXO, and remember, I always told you that at $2.5–3 billion, I mean, you're betting on the come basically. Exxon is very, very bright.
Tell them what
Kirk Randall is very, very bright. He, in a sense, it is not very, very bright. He probably knows as much biotech as I do. I mean, the technology. But he is very good at tapping the professors, what have you, the best universities, putting together teams and things like that. So Interaxon is very good, and he's been buying his own stock lately.
He has, so that's
So
positive.
as a result, that is a positive.
Yeah.
And so I added a little to my position on Interaxon.
Yeah.
I don't have, this is not my largest position and all that. It's, like I said, it was Kite, and it was, so this one was Adamus, and Adamus paid off big because the drug was successful.
Kirk, we've talked about him
Yeah.
before.
So
Here,
Kirk is a
Randall.
very, so I recommended that you buy the companies that Kirk
Buys.
invested.
Yeah.
Now remember, he's getting a lot of money because he invested in the venture capital kind of stage, and he sort of going to get them the push. But never mind that, if they're good and all that. One of such companies is Ziop, that I like. ZIOP. And Ziop is, I wouldn't invest too much in it. It's a risky kind of play. But it is ZIOP, Z like zebra.
Z.
Okay. And there is no insider buying or things like that or what have you, but Ziop is a very bright company, and they might have something which can, a vector that, that use a virus to sort of go into the brain, be able to fight brain cancer. You can't really easily, there is a blood-brain barrier, so most things can't just go to the brain. So I think that is very good.
What Azra and I have talked about XON. This is Kurt Randolph. We've spoken about it. It's sort of, I won't say it's a mutual fund of biotechs.
Yeah, it is in a sense.
In a way.
It's
But
a
so if you
venture,
buy
venture
XON,
capital fund of biotech.
if you buy XON, you're getting other companies, like he's mentioning, spin off. And the only reason I know about this fella is because he went to my university. He's from southwestern Virginia, Boston, Virginia, to be precise. And I had a friend of mine from school that worked for him and was exposed to him, and he really made a mint. One of his first big killings was, I think it was New River Pharmaceutical, and he made a lot of money on that. And because he went to Radford, people in administration, leaned on him for resources, and a lot of them were in this XON when it was $3. and XON went as high as, I think, 95 or 90, and then it crashed back down. But the whole point on it is if you have some money for the long term, and if XON dips down into the teens, and you just are willing to wait, it's not a bad place to put something, because he is, as Nazar said, he's sort of really a manager and is able to bring in other people and utilize them.
He knows where the talent lies in the biotech industry amongst the academics.
So it's a different approach, you know.
Okay, is that it for you, Nasser?
Yeah, I think, I can keep going to the ones and all that. Dynavax was a big success. Adamus was a big success. Things like that. I've not been, this is probably about 75%, 70% of my portfolio. I did invest in Tencent.
Oh.
And things like that, but I think I don't spend as much time, and these are smaller kind of investments. One company there are two companies that are, a little less risky in the biotech space and again, they don't make as much, they're not as huge kind of risks or not huge gains either. One is FMI. FMI is a very interesting company. Foundation Medicine, I have had it for several years, again a Boston company, and it is having success in its tests for biomarkers and all that.
Oh, FMI, okay.
So their most recent test, tells you quite accurately the number of mutations you have on your cancer cell, on your cancer, and so the number of mutations is very important because some drugs work on, immunotherapy kind of things and all, depend upon the efficacy, depends upon the number of mutations. So Roche, they're partnering with Roche. And so I think that success is going to serve them well. Then they also had a American Cancer Society, or one of the large kind of cancer kind of places. They've used them so they get their blood samples, so that means they're going to get more data than anybody else. So competitively, they have a wide moat. The other company I like that has been touted on, I think on whatever it is, on the television and everywhere else, is TMO. TMO is a good, solid kind of TMO. Thermo Fisher. It used to be always a good company, and it still is. And it's not too expensive. It won't make a lot. TMO. Thermo Fisher.
Just like a other.
Yeah.
TMO is the Oliver.
TMO for Oliver.
TMO.
It's a lab equipment company.
Yeah, there's also some sequencing and all that. The other sequencing companies are very, very expensive, and so we don't really want to go there.
So that's
somebody may come with it.
I have a question first. So obviously you diversify in the biotech space. How many holdings do you normally carry in your portfolio?
Right
10,
now,
10, 12?
Okay, so the portfolio is not well managed. If I could probably do that. The reason is that I have to keep on, these are all my babies, so I have to try and sort of, say, hey, I'll do that. The nice thing about Kite is that I don't have to decide. It immediately shot up 30% because of the acquisition, and it sort of says it's no brainer. I don't have to worry about following. But I still have to follow CAR-T because I do have an investment in
Do you
Novartis.
Once Kite goes up, do you have a stop loss in case Kite comes down a little bit?
No, it doesn't. It's done deal basically. So
Sorry, but let's say it just suits up to use. You don't use stop losses, right?
I don't use any stop losses. Right. What I'm trying to say is occasionally I do use call options or put options,
okay.
But only basically as a hedge. Because I think the transaction costs in these options are very, very high, and I can't keep watching them and all that. I don't have time to do that. When I buy things, usually I'm a little bit impatient. This is a stock that I must buy. I recently bought a stock which is a huge gain, but...
Is there a company doing something with modifying the DNA to fight cancer?
They're doing that. Yeah, all of them.
I heard something
CRISPR
like
technology.
there was something in the news about that.
Yeah, I heard something too.
CRISPR, yeah.
CRISPR is, but the thing is, you got to look at it as with AI.
Lung cancer. Lung cancer, I heard.
I don't know which.
I think now, cancer is becoming less specific, basically. So the first drug, I think, one of the drugs that was approved without any cancer, whether it be lung or anything of that sort. And it depends upon the mutations. So, you can approach cancer from a variety of perspectives.
Well, what about just the science of modifying DNA to remove the hereditary?
Okay, so our thing is, it doesn't have to do anything with cancer, it has to do with defects.
I expanded this.
No, I know, but the
Yeah.
defect has to do with a single gene. So there are people, for example, muscular dystrophy or what have you, you have a single gene. That is kind of, wrong. So there's an exon skipping kind of gene that you put in. So what you do is you connect that genetic defect.
But
So,
who's doing that?
so far, things have been very good and all that when you have a single gene. But, Alzheimer's has so many genes involved and we don't really know the meaning and all that kind of stuff, as you don't know. The ability to also sort of go in and sort of, you can knock out a gene and replace it with CRISPR, but you also have to sort of say that, if you have vectors, then the size of the vector is important.
Who makes CRISPR?
It doesn't. I mean, this is a technology. So
What?
MIT got the. So there's a competition between Berkeley and MIT, and they're finding who really discovered. So
Discovered the machine?
no. Discovered the technology.
Concept.
the technique.
I'm asking about the patent or the.
Yeah, the patent is there's a fight between California, Berkeley, and MIT.
Is that a
Yeah.
Can I
It's
just
an
add,
interesting question.
can I just add real
It's
quick?
like, it's like the eye surgery.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have a company called Once, and it's just got the thing. They went in and gene and sort of so that there is a retinal kind of neuropathy that they'll be able to correct with gene kind of correction.
Just one last thing, since we're in the biotech discussion, sir, have you heard of NLNK? It's concentrating for melanoma that apparently was approved for something recently. You can see this shot up here. Look at that. It went from what we call 8. It's now 18 and 3 days, right? 2 days.
and high volume?
So I knew nothing about this. I see it on the news, and I said, okay. When you mentioned calls and puts to hedge, said, okay, I'll take a small stab at this. I'll purchase it at around 17, 18 right now, but the calls were about $3 for the 17s at $3. So I went ahead, bought it for 18 plus a $3 premium on the calls. My downside is 15. We'll see what happens. But that's a hedge thing. I normally don't like to buy things that go up that fast in one day.
I think when a biotech goes up, I think one of the reasons stocks, I can't remember which one, went up by 17%. Okay.
Yeah.
But you look at ARRY was the one, or what ARRY, and I have a large position in that. But the thing is that if it goes up by, it is normally a good company, it doesn't have any spectacular kind of things. It went up by 17%, and it came down some, and I bought some more, even though I have a large position and I have a large gain.
Right.
ARRY.
Yeah.
The reason was that whenever it goes up, the question is basically, did it go up enough or did it go up too much? Okay, so was there an overreaction, or was there because it shot up 17% and then came back down to 6 or 7%?
Yeah, this one is projected to go twice its value today, so it's projected to go about 36. So
I
so
don't
we'll
know
see
who
what-
predicts that, and I don't know what there is.
Somebody with
Melanoma is a very crowded field.
Yeah.
It is the largest skin cancer, but it's a very lucky, So
Okay, thanks.
So I guess we're there at you, Tom?
Well, coming back from the beach, was a nice experience to get away. I'll bring up a couple things. I was mentioning to him that when I see a rise in commodities, like some of these commodities, it's sort of a warning flag to me. And I don't know whether that's gonna really, this is for long-term investors. When you see trends changing, So I'm just gonna mention something that some of these commodities have been going up.
Is that like a precursor to inflation? Is that more?
It's more of a precursor. Then there's a follow-up of inflation a little bit because you compensate for it. But, and maybe 3 to 4 months after that, things go up too fast and then they come down.
Bit of a crash in copper.
Bubble.
Bubble going on.
Yeah. It's
So,
you pulled up copper, isn't it?
Yeah, there was a little crash 27
Yeah.
hours ago, I guess, in China.
It's sort of a warning sign for the long-term investor. Anyways,
about, in what sense about warning sign about what? That the commodities are
well,
going to rise and
I'm
inflation.
talking months to 6 months.
So what will happen? That inflation is going to come back?
Well, I've seen the market. I'm not gonna, who the hell knows, to tell you the truth.
Well, there you go. All you know is what you think. You don't, no one knows.
But I'm
You know what you
just
think.
saying that when I've seen commodities over the years pull up, I've seen some things, the reaction is something comes and maybe if you pull up, can you give him a symbol you use for that?
Thanks. Well, this just tracks the price, but here's an ETF, COPX, probably is pretty close to price of copper. COMEX, C-O-M-E-X.
It's down here, Gary, down
Dr.
below.
Copper.
You're in the shade of it.
Mr. Copper comes.
Dr. Copper.
Oh, that's a one day, so that's what,
a couple years ago.
year to date.
Yeah, now look, we just had a big drop.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
there's some
know.
news there.
I just think it's,
Try P8. P8.
All right, so is that it for you, Tom?
no, I've been a long-term holder for Apple, and I thought it was getting up there, and so I wrote some calls last week before I took my vacation to protect a little bit. And then I said, well, maybe I heard that Apple is going to have problems with getting parts. And some of these deliveries that people want in December, Christmas time, may not come till January. Now, have other people heard this news?
Yeah, but it's usually a blip. Doesn't
Yeah,
necessarily affect
That's what
the
they
old
said.
price longer term.
so then after I wrote the calls, then I said, well, maybe I ought to do something else. So I ended up with a strangle, and then I covered with 2 other options and buying the calls on the side. And it turned out to be a very interesting trade. Now I had 4 positions.
So to be clear, Tom, this is a credit strangle where you
Yes.
sell the premium at the lowest
Yeah,
closest
can I get up
price.
there?
and,
I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Anybody interested in seeing what I did? Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, go
we,
ahead.
we only have an hour. Oh, half hour.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
That,
I think it does point out how, things can get so complicated so quickly and,
But-
keep track of it all.
I mean, this is
You
just
gotta have a skill set to keep
this
track.
is just an illustration of it playing around here. But let's say Apple is going up and around here. It came up here, so I wrote the calls here. So I've got a minus call at 165. What I did to protect my position, and then I saw it going down again. And I saw the increase of the value of the call. So I then did I thought this was going to be a low point here, so I did a minus put 160. Now, if the stock just wiggled around in this range, I would have made nice money. Then I got a little worried with what's Apple playing around with. September 1st, they're going to be coming out with, 1 in the afternoon. So I said, well, I don't want to risk anything coming Tuesday. So then I bought a call here at 170, and I bought a put here at 155. So now, if the stock tanks, I'm covering myself going down because of covered put, or if the stock goes up, I'm covering myself on the way up. And that's what I did.
So you placed the minus
Well,
165.
this all started because I owned Apple.
Oh, okay. But I'm saying, did you replace that all of that at once, or you over time?
I stepped in. I stepped in depending on where it was going
Oh,
on.
okay.
And I don't know what's going to happen Tuesday, so I noticed I made a
I
sizable.
sure don't either.
Yeah, but I made a sizable gain just riding in this range. So I'm not going to take a gamble and see what Apple does Tuesday because of the amount of money involved here. So I just closed out everything Friday afternoon.
That's good, because there's a lot of high volatility event coming next week.
Yeah. So,
But the other side of this, that's where you get the high premiums, where there's high volatility.
well, this started over a week ago, and this is where you look at the thing.
Because to Nazar's point, people generally overprice fear. Overprice fear, that means that the premiums on these calls and puts are really higher than they should be, generally speaking. But then there's the possibility that the worst fears will be realized, and then you lose a lot of money.
So,
But
by the way,
this is very short-term investing, by the way. Don't
you mentioned that,
Don't
like,
try to say
availability of parts. One of my buddies works for a major like IC manufacturer, and he was telling me that, like, say, Apple will make a major order of some IC, like 2 million pieces, and somehow their competitors will find out, and then order the same IC, even though it's not necessarily their bill of materials.
Oh.
So that was interesting. Like, why they do that?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people play what's going to be in the Apple. And that's where they're really seeing it is the suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was it Taiwan Semi or something?
Create some fake news and the Russians.
Well, the day after it comes out, they always have somebody who makes a website analyzing the IC.
Well, you could look at OLED.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Now, see, this is
Applied.
this is where I didn't want to make this a big thing, but you can see what's happening to it recently.
So,
But that's basically it.
Yeah.
Gary?
So I briefly looked up the reason why copper price dropped. It's because there was a imports data coming from China that said the delivery was down 2.5%. And then since copper is basically used for a lot of the building infrastructure, like 45% is being used for building construction, and then like big chunk of it, like 30 something is for electronics and things. So it might be a huge indication that there aren't that much products being produced in China. So in macro scale,
Lower
that
demand.
there's going to be lower GDP or even lower exports coming out from China if that's the case. And that might have some global impact.
Well, the Chinese dollar, the dollar is the lowest it's been since a long time.
They might account for some of that price inflation.
Yeah, and just a few weeks ago, I think I remember it was a U.S. Economic analyst or Bureau of Analysts, and they also export that the data about the trade or export was actually relatively low as well. So
I compare copper to a little bit like oil and whatever. Here is the problem basically with copper. I mean, you look at the demand basically. It comes from primarily, building electrical and copper piping and all that kind of stuff, and plumbing and things like that. You don't see great growth in construction industry. In fact, there is too much buildings in this country, and they're gonna continue to not build. I mean, I'm having trouble with my last office building, and trying to lease it and whatever. There's surplus of shopping centers, there's surplus of office space in this country. And there is probably surplus of buildings in China which overbuild actually cities with things like that. So copper demand is not necessarily gonna keep booming, and supply is there.
So Tom, his suggestion might be a bubble in the copper prices.
Well, I'm talking the time frame. I'm not going to say it's happening next week or anything. I'm talking months. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I went to go see some like houses with a realtor, like abandoned houses, and the realtor was shocked that the copper hadn't been stolen from the houses. So maybe there is something going on. Maybe it's not as valuable or something. She's like, I can't believe all this copper's here.
It depends on the locality. I mean,
Oh, it wasn't a good locality.
I understand.
Typically, the copper would be missing.
Was that around here, or?
I mean,
It's
I had
southeast DC.
I had a shopping center.
Well, even
yeah.
that's
Yeah,
certainly.
you can't do
Respect
much with a little copper pipe full of residential.
Oh, yeah, you can. People steal that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it happens in Capitol Heights. And
Yeah.
State Heights.
No, I
and,
know.
Like copper
I
gutters.
remember
Oh, yeah,
in Somalia, that was that case. Somalia was devastated. People were ripping off copper for.
But then rip off anything. It doesn't really matter.
Okay,
The other thing I mentioned, let's go try KDWB. Now this
This
is,
has been going on for all the
this is, again,
Yeah. Yeah, look at that drop there, right?
Steel.
Yeah, slight,
yes, I don't know if this is gonna come back or not.
bank, yeah.
you wanted to look at the dividend? I think it's,
Okay, we're over to you, Mike. What's it?
Oh, I've been pretty chill.
You got the wrong symbol.
KBWD?
No, D is in Delta.
Sorry, KB.
KBWD.
I'm so sorry. KBWD.
Kilo Bravo Whiskey Delta.
No.
Is that it?
KDWD.
That's just a six. No,
Is that it?
no, that's not it.
KBWD right there. I think the one they had before was the right one, because that was a bank.
No,
Bank
that
No, it's
wasn't it. That
a
wasn't
power
it.
share exchange traded fund.
No,
I'm
that's
sorry,
not it.
yeah, KB,
Try KDWB. Maybe that's
KD.
K Delta. WB.
I'm sorry.
There's no such symbol.
Okay. Well, cross it off the list.
Because I do remember you,
I brought up something and it was interesting because it had a long-term yield of over 8%. And it was dealing with the financial instruments that they were acquiring. But it was 2.9% administrative fees, so it wasn't worth it.
Okay. So we're back with you, Mike. Everyone.
And again, I've been pretty chill. I have a little more of a tax on it just to hear Josh's latest thoughts. And here's a funny thing in my 401k in my current job, I loaded up on Vanguard small cap option because it was the only Vanguard option available. The rest of them were just horrible.
Oh.
High cost, actively traded funds.
Oh.
So now I'm feeling very smart.
Vanguard has their brand and they have their low cost. That's their brand.
It fit in with the rest of my portfolio. It's not a huge part of my portfolio, but it worked pretty
so
well.
that's equivalent to the Russell 2000?
It's, yeah, it's similar, small
Because,
cap. I didn't have a fault. I did
because-
well.
you know, if you look at the IWM, small cap plus 2000 equivalent, it's not quite at the high, right? It's been languishing a little bit.
But
Yeah.
what did you say about the rest of the, is it Vanguard ETFs or mutual funds? Just the
Well,
ETFs?
there's only, in the current company I'm consulting with, none of the choices for the 401k are any good. And the only one that they had that was a low fee that I was interested in was the Vanguard small cap, so I just dumped everything into that.
41.
Okay, but you're not saying that the other Vanguard ETFs are high or expensive? I think.
Oh, no, the management fees are low across the board with
Yeah.
Vanguard, and that's why I chose this one of the 15
Yeah.
bad
Yeah,
options. This was least bad.
Bad options of Vanguard, because I'm a Vanguard investor. That's
No,
why
no,
I'm
no.
so curious about it.
So the 401k offers 15 funds. Of the
Okay.
15, 14 are not Vanguard. One is
Okay,
Vanguard.
got it, understood.
So I chose the one that was
Okay, thank you.
Vanguard.
I mean,
And the only one
I
that
tell you,
offered
I mean,
was-
you might they're asking for a lawsuit, this for your outfit saying.
Yes, I
They're
brought that
not
up.
offering some low cost stuff.
I brought that up
They're
with the
gonna be-
management. I've gone to the meetings, and here's the gist of it. The president likes the company because they play golf together, as far as I can tell.
Well, I mean, it's his company's fees. I mean, the lawyers are just, hey, this is meaty. This
Yeah,
is
what's pretty
meaty.
classic investment advisors are friendly, but they're not your
I
friends.
mean, I'm not saying that that isn't the way it's done, but they're, you know, the lawyers have, I mean, they found a gold mine. I mean, let's
It's,
face it, these,
In your
but,
company?
but you
I don't
told
know the
you
company.
brought your end
Company
up,
you
so.
work for?
Yeah, the
Okay.
company I work for, and they did say, look, if you want to find another company, knock yourself out. But that's a great deal of work, a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And it's, relatively uncompensated. I'd be doing that outside of my normal work hours. And for me, it doesn't matter. It's a
Yeah.
small part of my portfolio. I'm comfortable with it being very
Right,
small.
but
Yeah.
I mean, although you could drop a dime to some law firm around here and said, hey, that's the jackpot for us.
It's, why look for trouble?
So, I mean, you're an employee, you would have some integrity, you would do it, but there's somebody in there, I'm ready to drop it down.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Gary, back to the theme, topic of the Russell 2000, which we were talking about small. So if you look at that chart, so they're off their high. S&P 500 is near the records, but IWM has reached a 144 up there. It's now it's on the high 130s. It's been dragging a little. So I had heard that if Congress passes some tax cuts, let's just call it cut because it's not going to be reform, tax reform, the small companies are going to be beneficiaries, right? So tax cuts will benefit the small companies. So you might see the IWM overperform like that.
Okay, is that it for you, Mike?
That's pretty much.
John, you're next.
Okay. I was wondering how many people here are millennials? Do you find that you're very conservative investors and that you're scared because you saw your parents go through 2008 and other issues?
Yes, me personally. Well, not my parents, but just, I've been watching all these documentaries about people who are 50 and they have no retirement.
Yeah.
Their pension funds aren't paying yet. That scared me.
Anybody else?
I don't think I'm conservative. Like I basically, if I see opportunity, I pounce on it.
'Cause I heard on the radio some people were doing a pitch and they felt that the millennials were more conservative than their grandparents.
Yeah, I read an article about this.
Yeah.
And that their investing strategy, because they saw the market crash in their parents and how hard it was on their parents. So I just wondered if that's true or not true. But
then I don't see much millennials even interested in
Yeah,
these
I
things in
see.
the first place.
I think
So I don't know how
millennials
true
try
that is.
to build their Instagram profile
Yeah.
and try to have the most luxury items and be the hottest guy on the internet.
Guys who want some games.
Not saving at all.
We have one right here, by the way.
I'm on my way there. No.
I know in my office there are several millennials and only one of them's reached out. He might be listening in on this actually, but he's the only one that's interested. And slightly one or two people have asked me about, their 401 with their contractor, and I'll mention which mutual fund, they have a choice, go with that, like your situation, you just mentioned.
I mean, I'm going to jump in on this to say, John, I think you're touching a point. I think there's trouble abroad for the country because so many young people, they just don't believe in the old system and all that. So I think we're ready for a tsunami here coming up, and Katie, bar the door on what happened to stocks.
I mean, I think what Lowell brought to the table with this cryptocurrency, that might not be around, but something like that will be how we activities in 30 years.
ICOs.
Yeah, internet coin.
China just banned that.
John, just say, I won't just limit it to the millennials because people don't realize how traumatic that Great Recession was. I think it was almost of the seismic proportions of the Great Depression. That's why the GDP has gone below 2% for now,
Right.
in the 10 years, right?
But-
right, and so, and that has taken up not only millennials, but people across.
Well, I mean, it
Away
just
from
pointed
stocks.
out that, I had sent an article out to people about how,
Right.
I mean, that was they were doing was just so crazy. Like, the Merrill Lynch, like, they almost blew the whole thing up with their stuff. Like,
I mean,
wow.
I mean, for example, you saw the news that like less than half of people in the country had $500 saved. Opioid epidemic is going crazy right now. I mean, it's not good. Like, especially
They're
for
spending it on
millennials.
that, you're saying.
Yeah, like so many people are overdosing. Have you seen the numbers? Like, it's the leading cause of death for people under 30 right now. It's heroin overdose. So, it's not good. So, and it's not going anywhere.
Do you talk to your friends about investing, the millennials in the room, or?
Yeah, well, of course, the people I surround myself with are kind of like me, but in general, most people don't seem to be interested.
It's
Well,
very
glad that you
and there's
surround
a
yourself
difference
with
in
you.
difference in mindset, just because millennials tend to. We grew up in a world where everything's, you can get instantly. If I need something, I go online, find it. If I need an answer, I ask the guy next to me. Why do I even need to Google when this guy can answer me, right? So in investing, it requires more patience and time.
They
Right?
don't
You don't
have
buy
the
into it, and then so in the event that if you look on YouTube, you find a video that get the most view, you'll be somebody got instantly rich, and that's the view that got the most view. Not somebody that wrote a video about I invested 30 plus year and then I got multiple million. That view is not going to be as many as somebody that I got rich
I think that's
overnight.
been true for millennia.
So it's an
Get rich
instant
quick
gratification part that's I think driving a lot of the young investors today. Oh,
It's hard to get people interested. I do a fair amount of mentoring at work, and sometimes if I can sort of get on the radar, I've been pretty successful. But there isn't much interest, and just with a 401k, it doesn't really matter to me much. The people that does matter to, I could not really get together any sort of a quorum to change the system. People spend more time planning a 2-week vacation than they do planning a 30-year retirement. Your eyes just glaze over, you can't. It's very hard.
And they don't teach it at school. I mean, like,
No, financial literacy.
I never learned.
I wrote an
anything
email
about
for
stocks.
my
I never heard the
daughter.
word stock.
Financial advice for grown-ups.
How did you
Good for you,
discover?
Mike.
How did you discover?
Until I went to college and I met people who were interested in these
Did your
things. And I
parents
asked questions. I say, like, what's going on here?
Did your parents invest?
No.
So you
When
picked
you
it
went
up
to-
on your own?
When you went to college, was it the classes you took, or you just saw groups out there, or what was it? I mean, how did it get your attention?
Of course, when you go to college,
Yeah, you didn't
you
have money
meet
to
people
invest
from
to begin with.
different backgrounds from you. Because, like, my family background, there's no, like, investing, like, we're, like, first generation out of poverty. Like, my parents, so they made it, but they don't know. You know what I mean? They just don't know.
Yeah, you're right.
So, and we,
My parents.
yeah, so they don't know what to tell us. But then
But
we
I
go
mean,
to college.
when you went to college, did you take courses on it, or you just saw
No
groups
courses at
out
all.
there, or
It's
what?
just you meet people, like in the dorms. You're talking, and the guy's like, "Oh, my parents should do this and that. They invest, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Oh, tell me about it."
That's
Tell me
how you
about
did
stocks.
it.
Yeah, in fact, it was one of my buddies. I asked his dad to explain stocks to me and how to buy. And he was like, "Oh, you buy this and that, and that's."
Gary,
Can I make a comment? This is another phenomenon I noticed is that the only reason why I got interested in investing is because I paid off my student loans, and then I had that excess cash that I didn't know what to do with, and then I got interested in learning. Whereas most of my friends that graduate from college, still have like $70,000, $80,000 in debt, even though the interest rate is like 3% or 4%. They still fixated in paying off the loan or paying the minimum such that they can get away with, eventually paying it off. They're not even thinking about investing at that point because they think, oh, if I have money, I should pay off my loan. I was like, but you can put that money elsewhere that generates greater percentage of return. But I was like, no, I should pay off my loan first. So I think that's another reason. If you don't have excess cash, you're not even thinking about investing.
So you're self-taught, you figured it out on your own?
Yeah.
Okay,
John,
yeah,
is that
okay, I got a stock, I've mentioned this before, and it finally started moving, and maybe, I know Josh's stock moved and Intel moved, it's in the semiconductor, it's STM. This was again the one that Paul Vanley was pushing, he was sort of teaser, and I discovered it at around 14 and a half. And unfortunately, I got out of it because it started trailing back down. I wish I'd stayed in it, but it recently had a jump. I guess there's an article about them and another company. And again, this is the Internet of Things is what Paul was pushing it as being, the sensors. It does pay a 24-cent dividend. And maybe people want to watch this one. I think at one time when it was really hot before the crash, it was like a $70-some stock. So, but anyway, it is on the move. Maybe, it is something to get in or monitor or whatever. And that I just wanted to mention that.
So is that it then?
That's it for me. Yeah.
I had a couple of names. Oh, okay.
Oh,
no.
No, you're next.
Oh, Bitcoin. Okay. Since we're talking about the new process of money, Joan and I had a conference call yesterday on the initial coin offering for EOS, which is a new cryptocurrency that's been created by the founder of another crypto called Steeming. So we've been creating a pool of initial investors that have gotten involved in this ICO. Right now it's trading like at 93 cents, but in the ICO process it's jumped as high as $5. But the fluctuation of prices prior to the actual coin releasing doesn't dictate the future price, which is going to be in March of 2018. So we're expecting the move to be at least $4 additional from the initial coin price. So there's only one place to get this. It will be on Bitfinex, where you can actually use cryptocurrency to purchase cryptocurrency. I wouldn't suggest, unless you...
What is it, Bitfinex?
Bitfinex.
Bitfinex.
Yeah, Bitfinex.
You can Google that if you're interested.
Yeah, you can look into that, and so you send Bitcoin to Bitfinex, or you send your choice of crypto, then you can convert it over. But since it's such a great price, it's a no-brainer. You can buy 100 coins or 100 tokens for $100. It's like, it's a very low risk because of the price currently. But again, he bought it at 44 cents, and he watched it go to $5. But again, the fluctuations are Jesus. You know, it's a little volatile.
Is there a chart for that you would?
No, there's no chart. Well, the chart is on Bitfinex. So if you go to Bitfinex, you can see it. But I don't think.
What's the symbol or what's the name?
EOS. The symbol will be EOS.
You want to put that up
Oh,
here?
okay. I don't think there's a way to really. Yeah, there's a way that you can see this.
Tell Barry the symbol again.
Go to coinmarketcap.com. Okay. CoinMarketCap. Again, this is for people that are really interested in technology, because this is, so scroll down. If you scroll down, you'll see I think it's number 17. I'm not sure where it is at. So, guys, keep going down a bit. You see EOS.
Where is it?
There's Steam. It's the
Number
cousin.
17, is that it?
No, keep going down. I'm not sure where it's at currently, because remember, there it is right there.
EOS.
Yeah, EOS. So as you can see, so now it's down to 76 cents. So it's really volatile. It's dropping a lot. So my friend, he's probably putting another $1,000 at this price.
Oh, I see. You bought it at $4, but then it went to $4. Now
But there's a chart there too. So go to the chart. You guys, the chart is.
Oh, there you go.
So you see how.
Well, if you went in the Coinbase and you took your, let's say, some of your Bitcoin, moved it into this, could you do it through Coinbase or no?
Yeah, you can send the Bitcoin from Coinbase and send it to Bitfinex and like that.
By the way, what did the tax people say about it? How you get your reporting on that stuff?
There's no reporting for this because it's all in crypto.
So it's
not regulated.
It's not. There's no taxes.
I mean, I don't know the IRS who agrees with that, but I mean, I guess you.
Well, you know, I mentioned it last week. You weren't here, Noel, and unfortunately, we didn't have a computer. But maybe Hector can go to Coinbase, and I told these guys, I mean, they're encouraging people to put their 401s in there.
Yeah.
They're encouraging their people
IRA.
people are encouraged to do their Roth IRAs in there with this cryptocurrency. It's amazing. But if you go into Coinbase and go in their website, yeah. Basically, you sign up and you get an account, and you can go in and transfer resources out of your bank account to them. It takes 4 or 5 days, and you buy whatever you're buying there. And then, the young man, I don't know if his name is
There's
Mike.
charts to the left.
His name, but he mentioned that you only can hold in Coinbase 3 different type of cryptocurrencies. You can't have more than 3. But
There's no ETF of coin.
It's a Bitcoin trust.
They're trying to get the ETF going and right, the
yeah, the Winkle brothers tried,
Wiggle buy.
but they failed.
So just to give one little plug, and I think I'll end it on this one, which is basically the EOS token has a smart contract contained in it. It's the only coin that's proposed to offer a dividend. So I'm going to explain to you how this works briefly without getting too technical.
So you can get a dividend with
You
that.
can get a dividend with EOS. So that's one of the reasons why there's so much push in this sector. So let's say that I'm going to start building an application, but the cryptocurrency of choice that I want is EOS. Because EOS offers a dividend, once I collect my currency in EOS, the coin itself has a contract within the blockchain where it will spit money each time a coin token comes in, a token goes out. So it pays a dividend on those initial investors that were investing in whether it's software or anything blockchain related. So it's really revolutionary in that context, and it has a lot of self-governing elements encrypted in the actual token. So for those of you that do buy it through Bitfinex, you have to understand there's another wallet that you have to send it to. So that's another thing I want to warn you about. I don't think you can, well, you can trade it. You can trade it in Bitfinex, but you'll have to eventually, if you want to own the token and then get a dividend on it, you'll have to trade it to another wallet.
The wallet called?
The wallet is it's just MyEther, but then there's another one. MyEther is, we found out, is not going to support it. So there's another one I have to get back to. But MyEther wallet is one that currently is being used.
But if you go into this Coinbase site, couldn't you just purchase the EOS from there?
Coinbase only uses the top coins. They don't play with.
So OES is not part of their world.
Yeah. As you can see, there's only three. There's Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. These are the top coins in the whole world. You can't get any more safer than that. That's like investing in Apple.
I guess dollar bills, but no. I'm in the 20th century.
Because you told me about it last week. I was doing some research. There's something that I see a lot of commentators talking about. It doesn't represent any value. Do you know what I'm talking about?
As of yet, it doesn't represent tangible value, but Bitcoin was in the same position.
But it's written like in their contract, like, you know what I mean?
No, we'll talk more about that.
So is that it for you?
That's it for me. Thank you.
What was the Lite, the Ethereum, and what was the third?
Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin.
right here, Tom.
Yeah,
I own all three.
Litecoin,
okay.
Ethereum,
Do you
Bitcoin.
see them?
I would like to add a little footnote to this. As
Sure.
an ex-programmer,
Okay.
Python is one of the fastest growing programming languages.
Right.
And Bitcoin or Ethereum is open source, and it's got a lot of Python code in it. And what has happened, because it's open source, I've heard that there are more and more people writing code to create their own version of Bitcoin. And some of these have already gotten into multiple $1 million, right? People investing in them. Is there a way that they're going to pull these things together?
Let's just say that they are pulled together as it stands, but with informal contracts.
What does that mean?
Hold on to your wallet. I think that's what
It means it's pulled together, but I can break it apart any moment.
Yeah. Correct. Something similar to that.
Okay.
I'm done. Thank you.
Yeah. Earlier this week, of course, you guys probably heard that Equifax got hacked and then leaked a bunch of information.
Wait, what got hacked?
Equifax.
Oh.
I mean, you were looking at houses, right? You were probably also applying for a mortgage loan by using credit checks or something. They probably got your information. So,
What is it that got hacked?
Equifax.
Equifax.
Oh, yeah, that's a
148
story.
million.
So there's
Half the country.
So you can look on their
deposits.
website. They actually provide like 1 year of safety protection.
Yes, and if you sign up, you lose your chance for any sort of a
Oh yeah, like reward.
Or bargain away your
No,
standing in it.
I asked that question, and there was such a big uproar about prohibiting you from doing a suit against you. They announced that they're not going to give you that condition. If you want information, you're not going to You still
So you can
keep it-
sign up for the.
You can
Oh,
still
that's a
sign up
good-
for the information, and they're not gonna block you from suing them.
So,
But
I think,
That was just an.
That was just.
Yeah, one of the
Because I had the
things
same
that
question.
I was told
Why
when I
keep mine
asked
frozen?
somebody, that
All
you have
three
to
of
do
them.
two things to protect yourself, and that is basically,
Oh, yeah.
make sure your phone is locked, and then also have for your accounts, for email accounts, to have two-factor authentication, because that is the best kind of thing that you can do. I mean, if you have it on your computer and all, if you sign on from your computer, it's quite okay. But if anybody else signs on from a different computer or what have you, they will need two-factor authentication, and that kind of helps you.
Google Authenticator is pretty good at this.
So Google, so that is, it says, for most practical purposes, it'd be sufficient. Otherwise, basically, if you're doing banking and all that, then use something, different, a different account just for that.
Yeah.
On a separate computer.
The best protection is the two-factor.
Yeah, I currently do use that. So another thing is that I read they were gonna ban the initial coin offering in China. So of course, I think Bitcoins and other cryptocurrencies took a big beating from that news, and I don't know. Do you see any where that's going? No, okay. Fine, that's it.
No, there you go. Buy some of it. Back up the truck. Talking about Equifax, you heard the story.
Hey, Jim, I have a question.
hold on a second.
Oh, it might be offline. I'll raise a question. Could you follow banks, small banks? And I'm wondering if the hurricane, it's banks who are associated with the hurricane areas. I'm wondering, make a,
I understand so much.
so this is a question. Yeah, okay, I'll think about it.
Okay.
Years ago.
Yeah, we done our,
And this concludes this week's live stream. Thank you for listening.